I'd like to call this specially called Finance Administration and Economic Development Committee meeting to order. If everyone could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public notification of this meeting has been published, posted, and distributed in compliance with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act. If I could ask someone to approve our large agenda for today.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Howard. All right, and is there any objection? Seeing no objection, we will approve the agenda as posted. And then let's open things up for citizens' comment. I know I do have at least one person that would like to speak during our citizens' comment, and that is Ms. Peach Morrison. And she's going to speak about the ATAX recommendation, which we're talking about today. So thank you for coming, Ms. Morrison.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, council. Thank you for what you do. I just wanted to come and say hey to everybody and just reiterate the importance of tourism. I know a lot of people think tourism just happens. Well, that is not the case. And we want to direct it and be sustainable and do the right things for the right reasons. And we work together very strongly as a community and as a group. We cross-promote ourselves. We look out for each other. It's a very close-knit industry, and it's a very important industry for not only our area, but for the state of South Carolina. I wanted to say that there's so many differences and so many nuances between the state 2%, the local 3%, the H-tax, and it's very confusing. The code of law, of course, is not easy to follow, but I'm very proud to say that I was very pleased to be a part of a meeting last Friday afternoon for about 2.5 hours. Increase that economic development, increase the reduction of tax base, and increase the quality of life for our citizens. So thank you very much, and thank you for the time that we had to do that educational piece.
Thank you, Ms. Morrison. Is there anybody else that would like to speak during our citizens' comment? All right. Seeing none, we will move on to our only item on our agenda, and this is recommend approval of an ordinance appropriating funds from the state ATAX funds as recommended by the state ATAX committee in compliance with the requirement of South Carolina Code of Laws. And as we said in our last meeting and then postponed this because we thought there was going to be a lot of discussion, right now we have 3 options. One option is to go ahead and approve it as it is. And I know there's some folks on council that Mr. Glover in particular, myself, that have pushed for that from the start. There are some other folks that would like to go in and to revise some things. And if we did that, we'd go through each one a line item by line item. Or I know we had talked before about 15%, taking away 15% from each of those different things. Those are kind of our 3 items that we had previously talked about, looking at what's the best thing to do. And it sounds like there has been some meetings that have happened since then. So at this point, before doing else, I'd like to open it up for discussion among the group. If anyone would like to speak before we move forward with what our intent is. Ms. Taverner, go ahead.
So first of all, the 15% is already out for affordable housing, workforce housing. But since I was one of the rabble rousers that started this, I'd like to talk about where we are and where we've come. So I made the motion because I've spent many hours learning about state ATAX funds, local ATAX funds, the South Carolina Code, meeting with our attorneys, reviewing our ordinances, and reviewing the past 4 years' awards recommended by the state committee. So after I looked at all that, a number of warning bells went off in my head while going down this rabbit hole, as I've talked about before. The first thing to me was we only had 5 members on the state ATAX committee instead of 7 as relegated by the South Carolina Code, and that's our fault. Council appoints those members. We only had 5. We now have 6. I believe we put the 6th one on, and we're looking for a 7. So that's our correction to make. And on the day of the awards, there were only 4 present, so that was a concern to me. It appears to me that many of the award recipients are the same year after year. I looked at 21, 22, 23, 24, and I wondered why other groups didn't apply. I don't have the answer to that. I just throw that out there. I've talked to a couple other council members. I don't know the answer, but that could be explored in the future. And just for everyone to know, the committee considers awards that demonstrate a reasonable financial need and should be able to show a good return on investment with how they choose to invest their financial resources that drive and enhance tourism, as Ms. Morrison just said. And the applicants have to meet the requirements of the state accommodation tax law and our county ordinance. And the committee can find that some people don't meet those, and they can choose to deny or award a smaller amount. So I read through all 37 applications for this round, and I told the people we met with Friday, it was tedious and convoluted at best. I mean, I'm an educator, bullet statements are good for me, make it concise, get to the point. These were not. There has to be a better way to present this information for review by all, and I don't blame the committee. I'm just saying this is what I reviewed, and anybody should be able to review those with ease. I don't know if any of my council members looked at them. I know Ms. Howard probably did, but you don't want to spend 6 to 8 hours looking through the box. And how big was it, Jonathan?
Oh, around 700 pages.
700 pages for 37 applications. Okay. The meeting of the committee is not broadcast on our TV station, so it's not available for council or public viewing. It's my understanding that every other Beaufort County board, commission, or committee is broadcast, and if I'm wrong, I could be corrected. But that said, I have heard the committee's thoughts last Friday on why they don't believe it's advisable, but Ms. Howard and I believe it should be discussed further, and she can comment after. At least one municipality in our county uses a scoring sheet, which I saw when I reviewed all their application. I believe that increases transparency because it's put up there before council, it's put up there before the public. I don't know if we have a scoring sheet. I think Jonathan alluded to it, but we see summary comments as to why grants are recommended or denied. So in an effort to learn more about this last Friday, as Ms. Morrison said, Ms. Howard, myself, Mr. Cavaney, Mr. Hulbert, Mr. Robinson, we met with Jonathan Sullivan, right up in the front here, who is the chair of the State ATAX Committee, and Ms. Morrison.
And Denise Christmas.
Oh, and Denise, I'm sorry, I forgot about you. Yes, you were there. Oh, yes. And it was 2.5 hours, as Ms. Morrison noted. We discussed a lot of topics related to the processes and procedures for the state ATAX funds. I thought it was really productive, really informative for me, who's been digging down that hole. And I know Ms. Howard appreciated the time as well. Jonathan and Pete, you were very accommodating, very knowledgeable, and I think you understood our concerns and we understood yours. So as Pete just said, we all want to do the right thing for the right reason and be good stewards of this money for our residents. So after Friday, those of us that met agreed that the committee will review the state ATAX code and our newly revised ordinances, which haven't passed yet, they're on county council meeting, as well as their current processes and procedures, because we all agree we want a solid, fair process to award funds. So based off that meeting, I suggest the committee should follow up with internal discussions on their own. We talked about this and Mr. Sullivan agreed. And then they would present some recommendation changes to finance committee about the whole process. These recommendations may include, and I'm going to leave it open with the may so you can add or subtract, reviewing, modifying, or changing the actual online application, simplifying how applications and supporting documents are submitted, and reviewing or revising the steps in the process as they seem necessary. They would reiterate to applicants the actual procedures in place. For example, I found that after they met with the committee, some of the groups believed that they were going to get the money and counted their chickens before they hatched, as the people would say, and may have spent it or just built their budget around it before council even decided. And council is the steward of those funds, as Ms. Morrison said, so nothing should be forwarded until we take that vote. And also the committee will provide input on consideration to have the awards dispersed as reimbursement on invoices, the way we do for local ATAX versus right now we just disperse them. And so we've talked about that a little bit. So I'll also ask the committee to consider the pros and cons of having the meetings televised. I heard your concerns, and recorded for viewing by council and the public to increase transparency. So that's where we are. With all that said, I will support the motion to move forward with the committee's $1 million recommended awards for this year, but the understanding we had in leaving is the process will change for next year. It's just too late to put the toothpaste back in the tube today. And so that's where I stand.
So is that a motion that you've just made?
I'll make the motion to put forward
And
their
I'll second that.
recommendation and also all the things I said, and the changes will come for next year.
And I'll second that.
All right, so we have a motion that's been seconded. Is there any discussion on that before we vote?
Could we just summarize what's gonna happen then? A
Well,
simple summary?
If I'm understanding correctly, I'll try to do that, and Tad, you tell me if I'm wrong, is in fact, we're going to go ahead with the recommendations from the State Aid Tax Committee as they've been presented. But we are going to look at revising the existing rules for next year's submission before the submission happens, again, which I think is in October. When does the application start, Mr. Sullivan?
Like,
If you want, go ahead and speak, Mr. Sullivan. if you like,
Sorry, no,
please.
no, absolutely. Tab took all my thunder, so,
Sorry.
I mean, she summarized it very well. And I wasn't gonna put it in a motion because I can't, but we had a remarkable meeting and I think it cleared up a lot of questions and, we had some changes. Unfortunately, I didn't take over chair of this committee until, I want to say, August or so. And there were some changes in finance, which Christine and Bryson have been absolutely amazing to work with for our committee specifically to get this process moving this past year. So we just didn't have time to implement any of the changes that the committee would like to see. So we look forward to bringing those back, and the changes that we want to do, Councilman Tabernick and Howard were in complete agreement with, so it was fantastic. So we look forward to bringing those back. But the biggest thing was how we want to move it going forward next year and timing. We like to try to get applications in really by the end of August so that we can start the process for review in September to have the money back before Finance Committee in October. That way funds can start getting deployed ideally by December. Because it takes, after it leaves here, it takes, I believe, 3 readings. So you're 2.5 months to get through the process. And that also will follow then the city of Beaufort and town of Port Royal will start this upcoming fiscal year. So they will also go. That way, as the different committees, ATAX committees throughout the county, they're all gonna be following. So we can look and see on the applications, because by state code, they have to include all ATAX requests statewide. So even if they're applying for ATAX outside of Beaufort County, they have to include that on their application. And so even if they intend to but haven't filed their application, they're still supposed to include that as part of their budget process. So that way, if we get this, I think council goes forward, Finance Committee, you approve your budget, the disbursement in August, and then by then, we're collecting applications. So by the end of August, September, we can start scheduling our actual interview date to happen sometime in September. That would be the ideal flow.
And so we also talked about the county can apply, which they didn't this year, but we talked about how they could. But to summarize from Mr. McElwain, it's to put through their $1 million awards and also to ask the committee to go back, revise processes and bring it to the Finance Committee going forward. Like John.
Absolutely. And if you would like to, once you have, or even now, if Finance Committee separate, the 15%, if you release the other 15%, then we can just hear that application and come back with another recommendation to do the 15% for the workforce housing, because that money is there from carryover. So that budgeted dollar amount, the dollars are there in the existing budget. They just need to be, released and then application and approved.
Well,
Or-
again, we already did that. I'm watching Mr. Kevin's head.
Okay,
That one's done.
perfect, got
All
it.
right,
Okay.
any other questions?
Yeah,
or
is there a liaison between the committee and the county?
We've always worked with our
Chairman.
chair of finance, so Mark Lawson has been. That's our assigned liaison through county council.
I got you, that's the only question I had.
Yeah, absolutely.
And usually that's been with whoever the director of finance was at the time, was kind of like the in-between myself and the committee, because they understood the rules and regulations and the money's coming in and things like that. So I think Ms. Christmas would be heavily involved in that as well as the advisor to that. So, again, any other discussions or questions? Mr. Glover, go ahead.
Yes, I appreciate what has been brought forward, and we can move this along. The only comment I'm gonna make is a comment to Tab, and I agree with her in normal situation that expenditures should not be allocated to groups until the third and final reading. would like for the administration to consider to bring forward, if necessary, to move forward with the expenditures because of the delay at this time. This is March, and third and final reading will probably be at the end of this month here, if necessary, or sometime in April. And there are some events that will be happening soon. And so I just think we need to give consideration to giving some funds to people who may have events coming up real soon. That's all I'm gonna say. Thank you.
Mr. Rogers.
We'll have to wait until third reading, until it's approved to authorize any.
Regardless, huh?
Yes, sir.
That's a shame. Thank you.
So is it 3 readings, or have we already gone through 1 reading and we're coming back, since we haven't changed it? This is, because again, we're coming back with a,
Well, I'm not sure where council is in its reading of this ordinance. Has council even adopted it on a first reading yet, or?
We have,
I think
All
we
right.
did.
Then you
I
got,
think.
you got 2 more
Two more.
readings left.
right.
One
So
would need-
this- so
one would need to
the-
be a public hearing, and
Yes.
then,
Yes, sir. And it could be done by the end of the month. I suspect we can get it in on the public hearing. Is that fair
It's
to
not on
say?
the agenda for today, is it?
no.
Is it possible that that could be moved for today? To expedite?
So, yeah, you can make a motion to amend the agenda today to add this item to it. And
Would you
then
need 2/3 of
you
the
need a
group?
2/3 vote of the people present and voting.
That's at the council meeting, we'd add that to the agenda at the 5 o'clock
Yes, sir.
council meeting.
Yes, sir. And then you'll need to have the public hearing unless it's already had the public hearing.
I don't think it has.
And the next meeting is on the 26th. Will we be able to get it advertised? No. Yes or no? No? So then it have to get third reading at the April meeting, the first April meeting.
Okay,
All right?
okay, thank you.
So there's no rush on that tonight, because we have to go through 2 meetings anyhow, with enough time for the public hearing.
True. You can just refer it back to council on, well, it'll come back, make a motion to send it back to council
Okay.
for the 26th.
All right, any more questions?
Or comments?
No comments? We're good?
Is that your
Sullivan?
motion to send
We
it to
got,
council
well, we
for the
gotta,
26th?
No, the first motion is to approve their recommendations. That's first.
and then it'll automatically go then to the next council meeting, and then we have to have time to publicize a public hearing, which we couldn't do that until the first meeting in April anyhow, and at that point it would be approved, so. All right, is there any objection? Do we need to have a roll call vote? Seeing no objection, this will pass without objection, so, it is passed that we're moving everything forward to council, for the next reading, and I guess we should double check to make sure there has been 1 reading. If not, we need to put it on tonight's
Yeah, you need to make sure that it has been adopted. It's
At the
gotten at
first-
least 1 reading. I'm not sure when it was.
If not, we can put it on tonight and
What
still
happened
have
at
it
the first
the April timeframe as being the, okay?
I think when we were going to adopt it, we put it back to finance. And so I think we could put it tonight for the first reading if somebody wants to research that.
We'll have to look into see
Okay.
what the minutes say.
We advertised for public hearing and second reading at our February 12th meeting. Y'all voted to send it back to finance. We did not have a public hearing. So it has had first reading, it would still need second reading and public
second.
hearing.
So it'll be second reading, okay.
All right, that was our only agenda item. Is there anything else that, this committee would like to bring forward? All right, seeing nothing, this is the shortest, I hope you all know this, shortest finance meeting ever in the world, 21 minutes. Don't ever expect this from me again or us again, because usually ours are 2-3 hours, so,
In all honesty, I mean, for your meeting, you actually appropriated $1 million, so that's good.
in 20 minutes, we did $1 million, there we go.
Very well put.
We are now adjourned, and the next meeting will start at 3 p.m.
Okay.